Hello and happy Friday. My name is Anson, and we are in week 2 of our short series, Walking with God from Generation to Generation. As we think about this idea in the context of a local church, we kicked off last week with this biblical idea of a lampstand. It goes back to the Old Testament tabernacle and temple. The lampstand was a symbol of God's presence and his light in the world. And we saw last week how in the New Testament, local churches like ours are considered lampstands because it's our calling to bring the presence of God and the light of God's love and the gospel of Jesus to the community where God has planted us. So we're grateful for everyone who's gone before to tend the lamps so that they can still be burning today. And we're considering this weekend what it's going to look like for us, what it should look like for us to tend the lamps in our day, in the present moment, so that they continue to burn into the generations that are to come. So walking with God from generation to generation in the life of a local church is so important for us as we consider what it means to be the family of God. It's also important for us to think about this on an individual level. What does it take for us to tend to the lamps of God's presence and light in our own lives and to use what God has given us to fulfill the purpose that he has called us to? Well, it takes boldness. And so throughout this series, we're also highlighting stories of bold steps that bring big impact. If you've been around Lake Norman or been even in our worship spaces, you know that we're have banners up front that remind us to take bold steps of compassion, hospitality, generosity, and commitment, because we believe this is what it's going to take to bring healing, connection, and purpose to people all around Lake Norman. And small steps, we can expect some small impact, but with big steps, bold steps, we can prayerfully expect God to give big impact as we seek to fulfill the mission and vision that he has called us to. So last week we heard a story of one of our students, Palmer Schultz. I'm including his video in this email. If you didn't see it on Sunday or if you want to rewatch it, click to hear his story, his bold step of compassion. And the bold steps of compassion that our students are taking in their ministry. It's encouraging to hear, and it invites you and me to think about this question. What are the bold steps that God is calling us to? As we think about not only walking with God from generation to generation, but as we move toward the end of this calendar year and move into the holiday season, let's prayerfully consider the bold steps that God is calling us to so that we might be that light, that we might represent his presence and his light and love in the world where he has placed us. So lots of opportunity for reflection, for gratitude. I look forward to seeing you. Hope you'll join us this weekend, special Founders Day weekend, where we're going to have a special guest with us who was here at our founding and going to have an encouraging word for us about how to tend to the lamps today that God has given us here as a church. So looking forward to a great weekend together. Hope you'll join us, but until then, have a great weekend.